Okay, so before I go ahead and share my screen, I'm just going to go ahead and do a quick roll call. So it looks like we have Jack Young, Deborah Trumbull.
Yep.
And looks like that is it for the committee. And then we have Ed Levine, supervisor. And from the town, we have CJ Randall and Jenna Holler.
Yep,
And then
here.
from MJ, we have Andrew and Jackie. And then from Place Alliance, we have Ian Law and Josiah Simpson. So thank you, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Oops. There we go. Can everyone see that okay?
Yep.
Yep.
All right. So we have a few things to get through today, and I'll just go through a quick recap of what our agenda is. So we'll start with a brief project update, and then I'll hand it over to Ian and Josiah from Place Alliance, and they're going to go over some of the updates to the concept plan since the last time we met. And then we're going to talk about an exciting new development, the Marina property update, and we want to do a mini visioning exercise with all of you. And then we'll jump into a discussion of the next steps for public engagement. And then we'll share with you the outline of the master plan document itself, so you can see the direction that we're moving in. And then we'll follow that up with some next steps. So starting with a brief project schedule update, we are in the month of April and almost May, if you can all believe it. Time is really flying by this year. And just a couple of things that we wanted to point out to you, and let me just move this out of the way. There we go. So in terms of just a slight modification from the last time that we spoke with you, we are anticipating the next round of public engagement to be in June. And we will discuss that a little bit later on. And then we also just wanted to mention that the board presentation of the final plan, that's likely going to get shifted to August, which we don't have shown on this calendar, but we just wanted to let you all know that. In terms of work that's in progress and ongoing, the existing conditions and past plan review is ongoing. In terms of public engagement, that is ongoing. Again, the website and stakeholders, we're continuing to follow up with stakeholders as needed. The preliminary draft concept plans, which you have seen and we'll see an update today. And then the draft master plan outline, which we will also share with you today. In terms of completed tasks, that would be the online survey and the first virtual public workshop. So moving along, so the last time we met, if you'll remember, we shared with you the preliminary draft concept plans for Myers Park, Salt Point, and the town ball fields. We had a really great, robust discussion, and we took the modification that you would like to see, and Ian and Josiah have modified the concept plans based on those conversations. So Ian and Josiah, if you would like, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and then if you would like to kind of take it from there to walk us through some of the modifications, and then we can discuss if there's any additional modifications needed or how we're feeling about it at that point.
Sounds good. I'm going to share my screen, Andrew, and you can talk, Ian.
Sounds good.
Okay, so the big, the big progress that we made was we went from hand completed graphics. So we brought everything into the computer and then integrated the changes that we discussed last time. So, now from a reproduction standpoint and making edits, it should be more streamlined and really work nicely as a document. So for the most part, all of this should look really familiar. The big changes that we made were, I'm going to annotate this, it'll be a little easier. We relocated the bathroom and store facility to this area here. And then in the old location, we moved the proposed kind of signature tensile structure into that location, which we thought was a great idea. The other change that we made from the concept plan was the existing pavilion that's in this zone over here. That pavilion is probably needs the most love. So long term, if there's ever a new pavilion that is constructed, we've replaced that one with a slight change to its orientation, just to really kind of get a big view that way, and be in alignment with kind of the new path system. And then the area by the canoe kayak drop off, little vendor structure here, along with where the kayak locker would be relocated. That's something that we have to add back onto the plan, is get that kayak locker back over in this area. So there's a few tweaks we want to make to the graphics, but which we'll do in the coming days. But any things that you see, by all means, let us know, over the next few days, and we'll make those final changes. The other big addition that we made, which we thought was an interesting idea, was the addition of some tented campsites, particularly, for those particular events or times of the year where that could be needed. So we've added that to the plan, and Josiah, fill in any gaps that I've missed with the updated plan.
Those were the requested changes that we got last time in the drafting of the actual concept using computer-aided drafting applications. We were actually able to create a few more parking spaces than we thought were possible. So we did increase that number. We thought originally that we could get 20 RV spaces. Well, there's a reason why there's 19. We were only able to keep the 19. So we didn't get the extra one after all, in order to create the space in between each RV campsite. And yeah, you covered it, Ian. I think you got most of that, the changes.
Jackie, did you want to open it up briefly for any comments that folks might have before we move on to the next park?
Yes, Ian, that's a great idea. I would ask the committee if you have any kind of initial reactions to the, this updated version. We're happy to hear that and make any adjustments. And it looks like Pat is joining us as well. So good timing, Pat.
The one concern I have, now that Pat is here, I can talk about my dinghy, is parking for boat trailers, because those mothers take up a fair bit of room. Are there special designated areas in the parking?
Yeah, this whole part here, Deborah, of the parking lot is completely dedicated to boat trailer parking.
Wow, that's a lot. That's
Yeah.
excellent.
So I think, so we have is that right? Just 75, so it's an increase of 50
At least.
at least, okay.
Nice. Looks good.
That's amazing. Could I jump in and ask a quick question? As you all probably know, there's a boatload, shall we say, of cash coming from New York State to put in charging stations. They're basically giving them away to municipalities. And I'm wondering if you could give us a sense of maybe how many of those EV stations, or how many do you think would be appropriate and where? Because obviously they'd have to be it seems like the state's going to pay to bring electric to them and bring the service there, but I'm wondering if there's any like kind of easy and obvious locations that both you and Pat and park staff think would be appropriate for those level 2 stations. Thanks.
Yeah, that's for one, I think that's great. And something that we should consider. I don't know if I can give you a good answer, CJ, off the top of my head of how many we will need to do some back and forth, I think, to land on the right number to request. I do think they tend to want to be on the periphery so that they require quite a large meter kind of zone and the station itself would probably want to land somewhere on the landscape strip. So in one of those zones, whether we want to, reserve a bunch in the back over here, but they tend to want to be on the outside so that the charging piece itself, that vertical component of it, can kind of live out of the pavement.
Okay, nice. It didn't necessarily have to be labeled on this per se. I was just kind of curious, just the committee thoughts and your thoughts about, I think there's 2 ports on each charging station, and I think we'd probably order 1 or 2 stations, or maybe more, depending on what Pat and the group thinks for Myers. But I know that this is considered one of the places that the county's trying to prioritize for these. So just thoughts are welcome. Thanks.
Pat, did you have a thought?
Yeah, I think we should start with 2 right now and go from there.
Yeah, one thing that a little bit of information that I know about them is folks that have those cars, they have an app that lets them know wherever those the charging stations are. So, if they're planning a trip, they kind of go through kind of mapping out where their potential charging zones are. And, some municipalities are trying to think strategically about where they should go to help lead to some spin-off economics of, while they're kind of waiting for the charging to occur, what those folks might do. But obviously a place like this, they'd have plenty to do.
Yes.
Okay. Pat, you came on this a little late. We kind of just went through and just mentioned the different changes, moving the bathroom and the store, in this location, moving the tensile structure, adding the tent sites, and canoe, kayak, little, vendor space at the drop off over there. But everything else should be a pretty good reflection. And Josiah was mentioning, I don't know if you're on for that the process of getting in the computer tightened up the parking a little bit, so we were able to get a few more parking spots than we had, but one, unfortunately, we're not able to get that extra campsite. So back to just having 19. Sorry.
Oh, that's perfectly fine. That looks great.
Okay.
And welcome, Katrina.
I'm sorry, my computer at home died, so
Oh, no
my
worries.
I've been struggling with that, so I'm on my phone. I'm sure, I know I missed a bunch, but I had one question. What about delivering of large amounts of product to the pavilions, say for parties? Are people able to temporarily drive out there to drop stuff off or no?
This plan is showing kind of a reduction of some of the of that internal loop that's sort of becoming the path system. So at least in the long term, as if this gets built, I don't think we would want them to be driving on the path. But we were thinking that we had this idea for having these little cart sheds, almost like a nursery garden cart that would be available, for park patrons to be able to utilize, from the parking lot to be able to unload their stuff. And, because everything's so nice and flat, they'd be able to, pretty simply be able to bring their stuff to the pavilions as an alternative.
Okay, and so if there was like a major catered event, like a wedding, the pavilions that would be better to be used would be D, near the parking lot. Is that a pivot?
Yeah, and I think that the paths could be, I think that they would be, if they were brand new or if they were just a size reduction, they certainly would be designed, or the existing would be able to handle the weight of a vehicle. So I think exceptions like that, park maintenance staff, emergency vehicles, and a catering truck or something, I think it could be done in a way that things like that, you could allow vehicles to get direct access. I think we would just want to discourage it on a day-to-day, weekend barbecue pavilion, kind of letting people in, but something
That
like
makes
that, I think
Okay.
what you're describing, I would say we could figure out how to let them get their catered vehicles in there. But really good question. Okay, should we move on to the next park?
Sure.
Working on it. Okay, you ready for the reveal?
We're ready.
Drum roll.
All right, I think this, again, just brought into the computer. The modifications where we got the crosswalk in the correct location. And then this is how we were showing the connection to the park's walkway system and crossing that vehicular use area there. I think everything else is in order. And then the other thing that we wanted to make sure we discussed with you that was requested was exploring this idea down here of adding an auxiliary parking area that's technically off of the property, and how that could work and tie into this existing access road. We gain about 35 additional spaces with that lot there. And it seems to work pretty well as a location. And just wanted to see what everyone thought about that. Obviously, that would take a lot of coordination and dealings, but would certainly add a significant amount of spaces. Then I believe, am I missing any of the other revisions, Josiah?
The only other revisions that we made was a more explicit connection to the west there,
Okay.
to rejoin
Oh,
the
good one.
path that used to be there, and maybe make it more formal.
That's right.
Any thoughts about this one?
I think the new parking area is really great to get people off the road there, Woods Edge Road, and get
Yeah.
them to the interior.
I applaud that additional parking as well.
Josiah, off the top of your head, do you know what that would mean from a total net gain of what's existing today?
I think there's somewhere around 100 parking spaces today. I think it's like 110, which includes everything here and these two, but they're single trays, and then
Right.
parallel parking along the street.
So we're gaining about that 35, 34, 35. Yeah. Okay. While kind of simplifying this zone. Yeah. Okay. Any other comments about the town ball fields?
Oh,
Great.
Okay, on to Salt Point. The one thing that we talked about, we had kind of over built the reconfigured parking area, and we wanted to get it into a range that was really controlling the use there. So we've reduced this parking area down to 39 stalls. And then I think everything else is reflected. We want to, we're going to make a few more kind of graphic adjustments to this plan tomorrow, and just kind of fill in some of these zones. We don't want to give the impression that they're open like the meadow. They are kind of brushy edge condition, and so we'll make that graphic modification. But I think everything else in the from the plan standpoint has been reflected based on our last conversation. Josiah, is there anything else you want to add?
The only other small detail with the changes to the parking was to make sure that the turning radius here allows for people to come
Loop
back through,
around.
loop back around after they've passed through and exited.
we discussed it at the last meeting of the Friends of Salt Point. And there were a number of concerns raised, but I think one of the more important ones was access to the boat launch area, because a number of people come in with pretty large kayaks, kayaks with double hulls that they use for fishing that can't really be carried from, and that can't easily be carried from the parking lot over to the boat launch.
And there are smaller fishing boats that can be put in there as well. Access to piers.
Yeah.
Interesting. So at this moment, there's some pile dividing blocks that seem to be blocking boats from backing into this put in
Not at
here.
all. Oh, no, those of us who back fairly well can back into there. But it does take room for maneuvering
Yeah,
because they
so,
aren't huge boats going in.
okay, yeah, so what this plan was accommodating was allowing for folks to kind of stop their car along kind of the edge there, get out, set their boat down, and then go park. But if they need to be backed down all the way down and in, then we'll
I
have to
think-
make a little adjustment.
I think the loop accommodates for that. It just should indicate maybe that that pavement can be backed down into but there would definitely need to be signage, this is a
Yeah.
temporary drop off. Also, there are a few trees there. Can they be incorporated into that green space so we don't have to cut them down? There's a willow and there's a black locust over. It is about in the spot where the greenery is.
Okay,
Sure.
I mean, it
We
seems
can-
like if
we can-
if we want trees in the parking area, it makes sense to incorporate the ones that are there if
sure,
possible.
yep,
Definitely.
totally agree.
Yep.
So we will, we'll take a closer look at this tomorrow to make sure that how we've got it configured can accommodate backing down in there temporarily. And we'll include those existing trees. And it might result in a slight modification to what we have here, but it'll essentially be doing the exact same thing and accommodate the same amount of parking.
Yeah. I'm sorry, did you guys mention the kiosk? Because at the Friends of Point, I think we decided not to move it.
Well, it was split.
It was split? Okay.
Yeah,
50-50.
yep. Loud 50, quiet 50.
Yeah, I think our feeling is that it makes perfect sense where it is now with how things are now, but once this
Right.
was reconfigured, it probably, but
Yeah,
we'll put it wherever you guys want it.
Well, here's the argument. I mean, the people that are dropping off boats are not really going to be viewing it. They have their own project. And the people that are going to the picnic area, it really is pretty close to the picnic area. So I don't know that what it does is it draws your attention to the other trails. So maybe people that wouldn't ordinarily think of going on those trails might, go to the kiosk area and then realize what an interesting loop it is and carry on.
Do you think, Katrina, somewhere more in here?
that would be a nice compromise.
That's roughly where it is now.
Okay.
Oh, well, then it's perfect.
I'm just gonna bounce back to the original. So that kiosk, you might have to use your magnifying glass
Yeah.
right here.
Yeah.
Ah. And the other concern was handicap parking. Right in there by the closest to the trails.
Right by that juniper, yeah, to make that a good handicap area with a path connection to that handicap area.
Definitely, that makes a lot of sense. And there's space to do it.
Yes.
Very good comments.
My vote was to move the kiosk, by the way.
Of course it was, Pat. You want a little challenge.
I wanted it back closer to the parking area just so people got out of their cars, got on that little finger trail, and it's right there hitting you in the face.
Yeah,
And that way it if you move it, it disrupts no view of the lake.
good points.
Yeah, that's valid argument.
I was on the
Oh, there's-
quiet 50%.
There is one confusing label when it says 13 Creek access parking stalls. That doesn't mean for cars, does it?
That means the front parking lot.
This one down
Oh,
here.
son of a gun. You're right. I figured that out before and forgot.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Great. Any other comments for this one?
Hey, Pat, this is Paul, sir. I'm just on my phone.
Hey, Paul.
Hey, just wondering, again, correct me if I've missed this, but is there any allocation or expectation in the new design to replace the concrete barriers with something more aesthetically pleasing? We've talked about that for years. I mean, doing all these improvements, wouldn't that be something that would be high on the priority list, maybe?
Yeah, we had that conversation at the last meeting, I think. And
Oh, I'm
I don't
sorry.
know,
Okay.
Ian, did you come up with anything, any solution there?
That's something we still owe you, Pat. So it's not really reflected on the plan. I think what we want to do is come back to you with, some photographic examples that we can deliver to the group, and then find a way to indicate it on the plan. But
Okay.
certainly agree with everyone's sentiment that we can come up with something that's certainly better than what's out there now.
Pat, do we still have access to a lot of poles, or is that in the past?
We have a bunch, but I don't know if we have enough to do that whole area. And I really don't personally like the telephone pole look, but
I
hate it.
Yeah, I think that getting rid of all the spikes around the parking and the picnic area would really improve, soften the view. The reason I asked about the telephone poles is while the telephone poles that border the existing parking lot by the kiosk they're pretty high up. We could they're very heavy. We could just literally lay them on the ground if they're long and big right along that straightaway, and they would be pretty much covered by grasses.
And then in the winter, someone could drive over them and wreck their car.
yeah, the other problem is they're just easily rolled so you can get in
Yeah.
and have access.
Not when when they're short, certainly, but when you have a full length giant
Oh,
telephone,
no.
that's
They
not
were rolling them down there, Katrina.
Yeah,
What?
they have rolled the big ones.
Yeah.
okay.
Some people are just very determined.
The other thing we mentioned was taking away on the map the designations of the little paths, because the DEC would not like that. That looks a little bit too much.
These guys?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
Oh,
they exist, but they should not be designated on a map.
They
Gotcha.
develop
Gotcha.
pretty naturally.
Okay.
Easy to do that. Thank you for reminding us of that.
So I think with regard to the barriers, we certainly can come up with some, I think, more natural approaches to that, and have some graphics demonstrating that. And I think what we would do is incorporate that into the document, the master plan document itself, as opposed to, representation on the concept plans. But we can certainly make a note on the concept plan where they should be located and indicate natural barrier or something like that. But yeah, we can include examples within the document itself.
Thank you.
Mhm.
All right, so any other questions, comments on the concept plans? All right, so I think we'll go ahead and switch back to our screen. And actually, I'm just going to pull up a map. And Pat, if you want to go ahead and give us a quick introduction to the marina property. The next item that we wanted to talk about with all of you is the marina property, and we want to do a mini visioning exercise with you. So I'll let Pat describe that, and then we can jump into the visioning portion.
Sorry, there is a slight possibility that the town may purchase Finger Lakes Marina. So
Yes.
it's slight. So that's why we brought it to MJ and Place to possibly input this into the master plan. We would run it as a marina and dry storage, but probably nothing else.
Even
right
better.
For right now. So in the coming days, we're going to be talking more and more about it. And we'll see where it goes.
Are there any state funding sources that would be applicable? Are we going to have a bake sale?
You'd have to have an awfully big bake sale.
Yeah.
Okay, well, what we want to do. Yeah, so we just wanted to get everyone's initial thoughts and ideas. If you have anything in mind for this property, challenges you see, improvements that you'd like to see, that sort of thing, connections, any initial thoughts?
Well, I have an initial thought about all the clearing they've done, and they've just bulldozed piles of soil onto big tree roots at the edge of that property. That is not a proper ecological solution.
So Katrina, is that the edge that borders Myers Park?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I would echo that and emphasize, as Pat said, the functionality of the location, but also some restorative aspects in terms of restoration or planting, some revegetation. It's almost like an industrial site right now. There's just a lot of wasted open space, which I know is used somewhat for storage for boats and other things, but there's a lot of just clearing that was done before the concept or the initial design was established that could be reincorporated into more of a park-like setting.
Did everyone see the question or comment that Jack put in the chat?
No.
No.
Let me bring that up. Isn't the marina already under contract to be sold?
It is under contract, but we have the possibility of putting in an offer as well. So it's not totally dead in the water.
And so, yeah, so we wanted to just get your initial thoughts and ideas. So in case that does go through, we can incorporate that into the plan if need be.
If I may jump in here, one of the, it's very common for people to transition to think this is going to be Myers Park 2, the sequel, and it's an entirely different animal. Doesn't mean you can't make some improvements to it, but it's an entirely different business model. And how we transfer that over or perhaps improve it, if and when we take possession of it, it may take time to do that because you still have to work with the business model there. And it is a rough, in my opinion, in comparison to the one we have now. Of course, the one we have now with Myers Park has been groomed. It's almost like a golf course type of attitude. And the other one is a field. You want to use that analogy. But it is easy to transfer over and say, we want this to look just like Myers Park. And it may eventually do that to a certain extent, but you have to also understand that a lot of the boat storage there is a huge revenue stream. So just keep these little things in mind. But once again, this is all good comments. I'd love to be able to have a more deeper involved discussion if and when we do purchase it, then we can probably act on some of these recommendations. That's all.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I would agree with those comments. I just would say though that like a lot of industrial or commercial properties, when it was initially established, they clear everything, establish their footprint, and then simply don't replant in excess locations or excess footage or square footage. So that would be my only comment. But I agree that you got to keep that functionality. But I think there's just a lot of excess that could be reincorporated at some point. But agreed, totally agreed.
That doesn't mean it can't happen, because Myers Park was a marsh, a swamp at one time. It wasn't even what it is today. So that doesn't mean that the same thing can evolve into something else over time.
Yep, agreed.
Now, if the
keep-
town, oh, go ahead, Pat.
Paul, if you keep getting us tractor trailer loads of trees, we'll have no problem reestablishing that.
That's right. Exactly. Hey, no problem there, Pat. There's more on the way. So.
All right.
If the town does acquire it, would you look to have some kind of connecting, like a connecting trail or something to Myers Park? Or do you want to keep it completely separate? I mean,
Yeah.
other than by the road.
In my mind, the two properties would just kind of flow together. We would kind of clear out the brush that's between them, and we would bring the Myers Park setting through into the marina.
And would you look to any alternative locations for the boat storage, or would that pretty much stay where it is? I know you had talked about, Pat, that there was, some property across the way for potential extra parking. Would you be looking to relocate any of that?
Possibly. It's pretty functional the way it is now.
Mm-hmm.
And it does lend itself well to, that sort of dry dock boat storage. So, I mean, we'd have to really get into it and look at it and be there and, just know the inner workings before we kind of determine that.
Right.
Plus, I mean, hauling the boats out of there and then parking them across the way is not really, it's not the nicest option for the residents there to have a whole bunch of boats parked there, but
Mm-hmm.
Could be more of a long-term thing, Pat, and obviously be an investment, but it would be a significant upgrade and be able to recoup some real estate that the boat storage takes up, and that would be to at least, consider more vertical boat storage.
yeah, it's possible.
With that you could still look, someone calls ahead, you take your lift, pop it in, and it's ready to go when they get there, but it's not taking up so much site area.
Right.
But that's obviously a big investment to.
Yep. And if you look at the way the road system is, it goes out and then curves towards the marina. I'm almost thinking about bringing that road in and going straight back, because we have to give the property owner at the end access. He has a right of way through the marina. So we could maybe give him the access through the tree line instead of going kind of around and out towards the marina. And maybe we could put more dry storage right along the marina in the wintertime.
I mean, one of the things you have to, if you could consider, this is an enhancement of the park, which means a lot of times, as you know, a lot of people go boat docking. They basically put their boat down there on the slip, and that's their cabin for the summer.
Sure.
And anyways, what the point is that you have maybe a bridge and access to the park. Okay. Well, how many parks have you been into where you have one area which is designated for perhaps cabins, like log cabins? Other area is open spaces for frisbee playing or baseball playing or volleyball. And one other area is for picnic tables and eating. And, you know, the visions that's been kicked around is that this would be an enhancement of the other area. You know, access to showers, that type of thing. You know, there might be some showers there, but it wouldn't be a duplication of what's there already. So many times you're going to have open boat storage because that would be a revenue stream. Because some of the boats being moved, perhaps, but it's been discussed. You know, if you just can take a peek from the Myers Park and see where the boats are, you know, some of these are huge. You know, do we go eventually with covered storage instead, which would be a bigger revenue stream, perhaps down the road. But once again, the business model is not going to be a duplication of what we have now. The business model is going to be what we can do as a town that is profitable, and what we can do to upgrade it. And this is a golden opportunity to do it with the trees and the foliage and everything else, once we establish where we're going to store these boats, amongst other things. So those are things, like I said before, that's maybe phase 6. Phase first is to get the appraisal done, which we've always passed a resolution to. So this is all public information. And hopefully soon we'll get the appraisal done, and then we'll move forward. And if it was meant to be, it'll happen. If it wasn't meant to be, we've got a little more on our plate. So it's okay. We're not gonna get bored.
All right. Any other thoughts, ideas about the marina before we move on? Okay, I'm going to bring back up our presentation here. Oops. Just bear with me one moment. Okay. So moving on, the next item that we wanted to discuss with you was the next round of public engagement, which is very exciting. So this next round of public engagement, the purpose of this will be to present the draft concept plans to the public and gather feedback on them. And so we want to make sure that you're comfortable with the concepts, and then once this group is comfortable, we then want to share with the public, get feedback, and identify any modifications that need to be made to the concepts based on that public feedback. So in terms of format for this next engagement, we are proposing a hybrid approach of both in-person and virtual, with the bulk of it being virtual. So we'll start with the virtual aspect of it. So we are proposing an interactive public webinar that is to present the draft concepts and then solicit feedback. So we would have a kind of an overview presentation to walk through the concepts, similar to how Ian and Josiah walked through with you to kind of tell the story of the concept, and provide the context. And then we would have a question and answer period, as well as we also have the ability to receive written Q&A during the webinar as well. So that would be kind of the first part. The second part would be utilizing the website to present the concepts as well. And so we would have a page on the website dedicated to the draft concepts that again provide that context and explains, that kind of tells the story of them. And then we would also have a comment form on the website to be able to solicit feedback on that as well. The in-person portion that we're proposing are the pop-up stations. And we've talked about these pop-up stations before, but we think that this would be a good opportunity because we're not quite sure where we'll be in the summer in terms of COVID restrictions, but these are intended to be outdoors, and they can coordinate with existing community events. So if there is a farmer's market or barbecue, the barbecue chicken dinners or whatever they might be, we can sort of piggyback off of those to inform the public. And so we're seeing these as an opportunity to help publicize the engagement event. So the pop-up stations would take place before the interactive webinar. So it could be used as to help publicize that event and share some information about the project with the public. And we would also be looking to the committee for volunteers for what we're calling committee ambassadors. So if there are committee volunteers who could help be stationed at the pop-up stations, that we also would come out and probably have a few pop-up stations. That one we would do, perhaps town staff could do one, and then one could be done by the committee ambassadors. In terms of schedule for this, what we're proposing is to have the pop-up stations in early to mid-June, and again, to occur prior to the webinar. And then in mid-June, we would host the webinar. And then in terms of the content on the website, we would present those on the website throughout the month of June. And that's also a place that we can continually direct people back to get more information, find out about the webinar, that sort of thing. So I'm gonna just pause there for a moment. Does anyone have any thoughts, comments, concerns about the proposed round 2 of public engagement? Okay. Yeah, so one of the things that would be really helpful, we do find that when we can work off of existing community events, it's really helpful. It sort of has a built-in audience. If there are any community events that you know of that are coming up in June, that would be really helpful. I did take a look at the town calendar, but I didn't see anything on there. So I wasn't sure if there was anything in particular that's coming up, but if you could just let us know if there are any key events that are happening.
June 5th.
June
It's
5th?
It's what we call Super Saturday. There's also going to be a car show that day at the town hall. It's going to be a rather large event. So that's, I would say, June 5th.
Okay,
That sounds great.
we can do that. Any other events in June that are?
And one of the things that we can do, we'll prepare the materials for the pop-up station. It sounds like June 5th is the day. Thanks, Pat. That'll be great. And we can leave those materials behind. And so if there are other activities or events that as a community, you think makes sense to have a pop-up table, you've got the materials there. And folks are willing and available. You can put up the table and the materials and just help direct people to the project, either the webinar or the project website.
What about July?
July starts our summer concert series. So every Thursday night at the park, we have a different band, and that runs all through July and all through August. So that's a really good time as well.
Okay.
So right next to the pavilion where they sell food. We're also planning on a July 4th celebration. I think it's on the 3rd, if I'm not mistaken. We'll see if that goes through.
Friday
also.
the 2nd, Ed.
Yes.
Thank
Friday the 2nd, Ed.
That wasn't-
Fireworks, maybe.
That wasn't a test, Jenna, but no, thank you so much. You're the best. So no, and I think those concert the parks would be, every week right there, especially if you have someplace, even if you want to hand them out as people come in,
Yeah,
from the gate, there's a lot of different ways
Yep.
you can do it.
Yeah, the kids will still be there. So if there's some type of card or a flyer or something that they can hand out as people come in, that would definitely be an option as well.
Okay. Let me see. maybe elongate that engagement through July. It sounds like there's a lot of opportunities to tap into the community in the month of July with the concert series and some of that. So maybe we'll, Pat, CJ, we can talk with you a little bit more about that. But if this group feels that it would make more sense to kind of carry this through to July as well, I think the more input we can get and support for it is probably going to be in the town's best interest.
One thing I'll ask Pat and Jenna, the activities booklet that gets produced, is that going to be again this year, or did I miss that?
The
So-
summer booklet
Yes.
It's out already.
is out.
Okay.
But we are constantly adding to that because some things didn't come to fruition so quickly this year. So we are adding to it as we go.
Okay.
Something else that I'm thinking of is that we can, and we'll think about how we do the webinar input, but we can also do a fairly quick online survey, another online survey to have folks react to the concepts. And similar to what we did with the first survey, which I think was, there's a great response, have the survey cards that could be handed out. I think that's something that we can do fairly efficiently and effectively. Ian, Josiah, and Andrew and I have done that in other projects together. And I think it's worked fairly well.
Yeah.
So just another way, another avenue for people to be able to provide feedback.
So for Pat and Jenna, we have our email blast that we can do from from the town. Can we also ask the school if they could share that?
Yeah, we are already on the school email blast, Ed.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
So yeah, well, the month of May, we'll be getting everything organized and getting all the publicity together, and that'll be great. This is very good.
Yeah, great. Thank you, everyone. Okay, so the next we just want to go over, give you a little intro to the master plan outline. So this is just to give you a sense of what's to come, and we are in the process of starting to develop this. So we want to make sure to bring you up to speed on how the actual document itself is going to look. So I'm just going to walk through this briefly, and then if you have any questions and if there's anything you think we're missing, comments, concerns, that sort of thing, just let us know. So the master plan itself is going to start with an executive summary with key recommendations, and then it goes into the introduction. The introduction is going to include the purpose of the plan, an overview of the parks, recreation, trail system, and so that'll be a brief overview of each park that's included in the plan, a little bit of the history of the park system and of the town. And this will also include some basic town information as well, like demographics. And then we'll go into the planning process, how the plan was developed, and then a brief overview of the organization of the document. The next section is the regional context. This section is to provide people context with the types of recreational opportunities that are around, both in the town and outside of the town, and recognizing that the Lansing does not exist in a vacuum. It exists within a realm of other recreational opportunities in neighboring municipalities, what the county offers, what the state offers, and also what's offered through private and nonprofit organizations as well. The next section is the existing conditions, what we're calling Lansing Parks, Recreation, and Trail System today. And so this starts with an overview of the park system operations, which includes staffing and maintenance, budget and financial information. Next is existing conditions by park. And so Each park will have its own section in here, and this will include existing facilities, a summary of the ADA assessment that was done at each of the parks, and a discussion of needs and opportunities for each of the parks. The next part of the existing conditions will be an overview of the existing programming opportunities. So current program offerings, program revenue, staffing for programs, and then needs and opportunities. The next section is the recommended improvements. So what we're calling Lansing Parks Recreation and Trail System tomorrow. So this includes system-wide recommendations, as well as recommendations by park. This is where we will present each of the concept plans and the improvements that go along with them, and any of the context that so people understand the direction of the plan will be included in this section. The next section is what we're calling Lansing Connected. This is where we talk about opportunities for additional trails and connections throughout the town, as well as opportunities for additional open space and passive recreation areas. And then finally, the last section is the capital improvement implementation strategy. So this includes the steps of how to implement the plan, the implementation matrix, which will include all of the recommendations, some high-level cost estimates for improvements, as well as potential funding opportunities to help leverage the cost of the recommended improvements. And that is a kind of a brief overview of the master plan itself. Does anybody have any questions or comments, initial thoughts about the outline? Okay. Sounds good. Well, we are already diving into that, so we will continue on with the outline as it is. So lastly, we just wanted to go over some next steps with you all. Coming up in May, we do have our 6th committee meeting. At that point, we'll have been preparing most of the materials for the public engagement, as well as finalizing the draft concept plans. So we'll want to confirm with all of you that you're all comfortable with the concept plans where they are at that point to share with the public. And then we also have the 2nd round of public engagement coming up. So we'll, as I mentioned, we'll be preparing the materials for the pop-up stations and the webinar and getting the website set. And then after that, we are, diving right into the master plan development. So does anybody have any questions about next steps?
No.
All right. Jackie, was there anything else that you wanted to add?
I think that's all. I'm gonna stop the screen share. So yeah, we're excited to be at this point with all of you, and excited to be gearing up to go back out to the public to get feedback from the public. So I think what we can do, we'll share this presentation with you, and either maybe later this week, Ian and Josiah, if we could share the draft concept plans that everybody saw today, and then we can get that to this group, and if there's anything else you wanted to share, that would be great. Jack, yeah, I'm not sure your audio is working. It looks like you're on mute, but you had Andrew, can you scroll up? Thank you. Jack, you had a comment about a 3.62 acre lot.
I'll go ahead and read his comment. So
Okay.
Jack said the 3.62 acre lot that includes the northern half of the Jonas Falls waterfall will be on the market soon. CJ Del Vecchio is the seller's agent. This lot includes a logging road that could be turned into better access to the base of the falls than what we have now. And there would be plenty of room for parking, et cetera, on the flat portion of the lot adjacent to Route 34. Yeah, Jack's mic is not working.
Sorry, Jack, but thanks for using the chat. Okay, so this is a good heads up. That could be under that Lansing Connected maybe future.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
So, okay,
great.
great, thank you. So we will be in touch with everyone. Thanks and have a wonderful evening.
Thanks all.
All right, take care.
So the work, it's great. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you, everyone.